Welcome to the video, everyone. Something I think that people in jiu-jitsu don't really think about, or if they do think about it, they don't realize how much goes into it, but that is the business side of jiu-jitsu. Today, I am talking to an expert in that area, and whether or not you want to run a jiu-jitsu business, I do think it's important to understand what happens both on the mat and behind the scenes. I also think there are a lot of parallels between success in business and success in other aspects of your life, so let's not waste any more time. Let's dive into it. Today, I am talking to the man behind Epic Roll, the jiu-jitsu apparel and gear company that I have been wearing and talking to you about for a long time. He's built the brand into a major player in the jiu-jitsu apparel space. You see guys like Eddie Bravo or Jeff Glover, Mason Fowler, Mike Beltran, Tom DeBlas, me, all wearing Epic Roll. He's also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt under Tom DeBlas, so today we're talking to Matt Wahlstrom from Epic Roll. I wanted to hop on because I've been getting a couple DMs from people about like jiu-jitsu business and blah 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 blah, and it's like that ain't me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not the expert on that. And I was like, all right, I know an expert in business and jiu-jitsu, so like
That's
let's fucking
awesome,
talk,
man.
dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
for
before we
sure.
get into all that, are you just like jet setting and traveling all over the world at all times now? Because like every time I go on Instagram, you're like you're in a different part of the world hanging out with like celebrities and shit.
Yeah, dude, it's been actually a trip. And I've tried to really like embrace it and enjoy it because I've worked my ass off like solo on this for so long, like 5 years. And so it just it was like I got to take a little bit of a breath and I got to feel like, okay, we hit this little milestone and we're just kind of getting started with all of this and have just been fortunate to have like I think the most incredible business partner I could have ever asked for, like legitimately, not, you know, just on a financial side, but just because of like, who Zoe is and like his passion for this. And like I have so much of his attention towards this business to grow it together that it's kind of mind-boggling, to be honest. So um we'll just have these moments, like some of it'll be impromptu, like Austin, we were just talking and we're like, oh, he had this idea to do this rock star beatdown thing where we go and trains with like the best people in the world and then breaks down the technique and all this and that. So at the same time, I was talking to Dan Manisow about some sponsorship stuff and doing some custom gear for him. And then it was just like, oh, well, we should go out to Austin and see some of the guys and see Tim Kennedy and all these. And we have just this kind of same group of people and that we were kind of running in. And so like, all right, let's go meet in Austin, let's go to LA, let's do this, let's do that. And so I was like, cool, man, let's go, let's
I
do
mean,
it.
yeah, why not? Let's fucking go. Let's do it.
Right.
So just
Yeah.
just to back up for a second for people who may not know or have listened to our previous conversations, who are you talking about for business partner that you work with?
Yeah, so I'm talking about Zoltan Bathory, who is the founding member of Five Finger Death Punch, the amazing rock band that is currently touring with Metallica.
And you guys have been working together for the whole time, or did he just come on?
No, so we met years ago through we actually it's very strange how it all worked out, but we have a mutual business partner. So he co-owns another company with this gentleman that I co-own another company with. And so I was introduced to Zoe like maybe 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more. And I remember we went to one of his shows up in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania somewhere. And this was pre-COVID. This was right before COVID. And we went up and we were like side stage, and he brought us up on the stage at one point, and we like, hung out with him, and hung out afterwards. It was super cool. And I remember leaving there with my wife and going, and I looked at her and I was like, man, Sultan is so cool. I was like, wouldn't that be cool if he was like my partner for Epic Roll? And she's like, yeah, uh-huh. You know what I mean? Like we're just kind of like said it jokingly, and man, we put that out into the universe, and then that was a wrap. You know what I mean? 6 years later, we he reached out and was like, hey man, I'm genuinely impressed with what you've built with this brand, and I keep meeting people that know you and people that really like you and are really supportive of what you're doing and the brand. And he's like, I'm impressed with that, and I think that potentially with some additional resources, this could be a huge jujitsu brand in the community. And so the idea of partnering up on it came up, and it wasn't just a straight cash for equity type of a situation. I really needed somebody who could come in with more resources and like some of those untangible things that the intangibles that like you just, it could be network, it could be people he knows, all these different things. Also, a lot of people don't know, but he has a 30-year like marketing degree. He's been doing design and marketing for the band, for all of their merchandise, for all of their album covers. He had a clothing business that actually is still in existence today, but he's really been in that space for so long. So outside of just being an amazing like rock star and judo and jiu-jitsu black belt and all these other things, he also had this side of the business where he could come in, and for me, looking to grow this exponentially and really trying to take it seriously and expand it, it was really important to position myself with the right people, you know what I mean, and surround myself with the right people, and this just really made sense. And so we really kind of had like a little bit of a plan to improve the website, do A, B, and C, get inventory, get things in stock before we really made any kind of public announcements about it. Just so that when we do kind of open the floodgates, we're kind of prepared. So it's very exciting to see. Again, it's really him, myself, and then his wife Heather Gracie, who is also a partner. So the three of us would be considered like the owners and management of the brand now, and everybody kind of bringing their own special skill sets to the table to really make this something incredible. So we're really just getting started and just at the cusp of all of this, and have already I think started to make a real impact. And for me, it's just super exciting to see, because it's to see something that really wasn't even supposed to be like this really company or anything. It was just like a little side hustle that evolved to this. Like, it's so special, it's so awesome. I feel very grateful to be in that position. So
Now, when did you go from like, all right, I'm really good at jiu-jitsu, I love doing jiu-jitsu, you're doing real estate, your family and everything, you're like, you know what, let me take on this extra little hobby of building a brand. Like, what made you go from just a guy who does jiu-jitsu and loves jiu-jitsu to working in a business for jiu-jitsu?
So it was kind of a couple things, but really my whole path of being an entrepreneur, I worked in corporate America for so long and really went through some tough times in those spaces. And I really recognized that, like, that's not the life I want. That's not me. That's not who I am. It wasn't an authority thing. It was just more that I felt that I have, I'm a passionate person, and I can't submit to the idea of having a career that I'm not passionate about, and the amount of hours that we spend in our lives working jobs, that, and you hear this all the time, where people are miserable, right? They're doing it and they're miserable, and it doesn't matter how much money they're making. It's, to me, an unfortunate sort of way to navigate your life. We have one life that we know of. And so for me, it was really driven through this idea that as an entrepreneur and wanting to have financial freedom, that most millionaires have 5 to 7 streams of income. They have these separate businesses. So Epic Roll came as a sub idea to this notion. I had found out about drop shipping around the time that I started, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. You can not hold inventory, have these online stores, sell products to people. I'm seeing guys that are selling coat hangers making $12 million a month. I'm like, hey, this is great. You know what I mean? Let me go after this. This sounds great. And there was a couple people in that always said, hey, well, make sure you're passionate about it anyway, like whatever you're selling, whatever you're doing, so that conveys to the customer, so you can really get. And I'm thinking, like, how passionate is that guy selling coat hangers for $12 million?
I mean, you never know. Really... Some people get really into really weird hobbies. Like, you never know.
Well, let's be honest. If I'm making that much money from selling coat hangers,
you develop a passion at $12 million.
That's all I am, the coat hanger guy. So yeah, and so I had, I did all this research, and I had all like pages of documents. I could make a 10-minute dissertation of why I thought that selling women's fitness clothing was going to be the key to my drop shipping success. It was like, I'll do this, I'll set this up. it'll be like a Lululemon online type of a thing. And I set everything up and it was just crickets. It was just nothing. It was like literally nothing. And I'm thinking, I know these things take time, but it just wasn't, there was something there that wasn't clicking. And it was around that same time that I kind of left the gym with one of my training partners and just was like in my head going, oh man, that was epic. That was an epic role. Like that was, that kind of just, I said that to myself. And I was like, huh, it's like maybe I could use that and make like jujitsu videos and maybe just make some t-shirts. And I'm an artistic guy. I grew up drawing and using Photoshop and doing designs and corporate branding and logos and all this. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I could just come up with something since this women's clothing thing isn't working out too well for me. I'll look at transitioning. I'll make some t-shirts. People like jujitsu, and there really wasn't, in my opinion, too many companies that it was like totally saturated, right? It wasn't like a business where you're like, oh, there's already 1,000 people and companies doing this. So I was like, all right, and really, again, because of the nature of drop shipping, it's not costing me money to hold inventory. I get to sit online, design these shirts, put them up there. If you buy them, great. If you don't, great. And as I put that out there, and as the brand, which was initially just like the logo, it was I kind of had the intention of making ranked gear because I saw that there seemed to be a little bit of a deficiency in that. Like everybody had cool designs, but it didn't seem like there were many, as much ranked gear. So I want to kind of focus on that a little bit. So I had the basic logo with the different belt colors on them, and people liked them. And first you start selling to friends and a couple people here and there, and then it kind of evolved to, I was asked, hey, do you make rash guards? Do you make gis? Do you make these? Like typically that's the nature of businesses. If you have a product that people enjoy, they want to buy more products from you that they enjoy, right? So that was kind of like a natural evolution. And I really took it because it wasn't anything that was providing anything for me financially. I didn't really have to stress about it too much. I kind of just went out with the notion of saying, I think this is a cool brand. I like what it represents. And, my intention is to grow this community and just connect with people and just, very like low key. And so I just kind of made it my mission to go out and just meet people, go on Instagram, meet people, kind of like how we got connected. I mean, that's it's a very common story for me, is like just connect with these amazing people that without social media, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. And so that basis of just non-confrontational networking and building relationships, paid huge dividends over the years of people that really supported Epic Roll and its growth. And so that kind of, just continued to expand and expand. And I went from having a couple things in like one room to filling up half of my basement to now in this 1,200 square foot, HQ that we have now, because frankly, I couldn't hold the inventory in my house anymore, or else my wife was going to divorce me. It wasn't an option. So, so here we are, and it's been amazing. We've sold jiu-jitsu gear in all 50 states and I think 17 countries now. Just sent some stuff to Norway. So shout out to Norway.
Shout out to Norway. I have a question for you that I think you probably won't be able to answer. But do you think, like, a lot of companies have come and gone, right? There's been a lot of jiu-jitsu brands that have come and gone. You've stayed. Do you think that networking and that social media and that outreach that you've done has maybe been like an extra intangible that other companies haven't done? Like, can you put a finger on why you've lasted when others haven't?
I can speculate. I want to believe, and again, without trying to sound biased, there's a lot of brands that have a really definitive feel one way or another, whether it's aggressive or it's more male dominant or female dominant. And so Epic Roll in general, one of the like main things that a lot of people have said to me is like, dude, I can't believe you have that name. Like, I can't believe that, first of all, nobody took that name, that just wasn't there before, because it just, the word epic is synonymous with everything great in life. It's used so much, right? So much in video titles and thumbnail titles. People say it all the time. so it's entrenched almost in our, in our vernacular and how we communicate and the things that we use to describe. It's not like in the rad category yet, where it's either ironic or you're actually a nerd. Like it's like
Right, right,
still one
right.
of those words. And so it goes, and it's very like middle of the road. So I think it was very well received from females and, males. And so I always thought, yeah, what makes me different, right? Like a lot of people make rash guards, make keys. I think you have to have a solid product, because your like mercy purchases and, your bro purchases that are just trying to be a homie and buy stuff, that can only take you so far. Like you have to have a legitimate product in order to really sustain, a long-term business and grow it. So I think that I was fortunate to have some really good fitting gear, and coupled with some, designs that really resonated with people. I've spent all these years, handwriting thank you notes to everybody that I send packages to. And I can't tell you how many messages I'll get like weekly from people that are like, hey, you have a customer for life just because of that. Like, I love the rash guard, but because you sent me that handwritten letter and took the time to do that, like that made a difference with people. And one of the biggest challenges I have now with like expanding is that it's no longer sending out 2 or 3 packages, a week. It's like I was here till almost midnight the other day packing 34 orders from, 2 days. And so it's getting to a point where I don't want to lose that customer service and that customer connection, but it's also super time consuming. And when I go, all right, well, how does this expand? If I'm doing 300 products, or sales a day, what am I going to sit and literally spend 20 hours, handwriting? Like, it's not going to happen. So it's now I'm at this sort of paradigm shift where I'm having to really think through the growth, what our brand represents, who we are in the community, especially having like celebrities involved in this now. It's a lot more, right? There's a lot more than just sitting and casually designing and throwing stuff out there. There's a lot to think about with regards to that. So yeah, I think it was a combination of the, networking with people, continuing to put out designs, because without something like drop shipping, again, let's say I make a t-shirt and now I have to hold inventory on that, right? So now I have 6 sizes and I have 4 different color variations. Okay,
Right,
there's all
right,
my money
right.
in one t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, so there was like a sort of a perfect storm of ingredients that I think played into allowing it to continue and move on. And I spend a lot of time now reflecting on that, and then again looking into the future and saying, where do we want to go with this? And really the vision, the overall big part of the vision, is not just to be a jiu-jitsu gi and rash guard company, because there will be other cool brands, there will be other cool names, there will be other cool people doing them, and all of that, right? Like I'm under, I know that that's not, you can't just, nobody just stays at the top like all the time, right? Like everybody's gunning for position, and there's plenty of room for more brands out there. So for me, it's about transcending products and moving into the community a little bit more. Like, we want to develop an app where we have sort of, it's like your one-stop shop for jiu-jitsu, where you can go and you can find, links to all the IBJJF tournaments, and you can have preset workouts for competing from like Spotify, and diet and nutrition, all things that center around jiu-jitsu, that can offer more value to people, above and beyond just this, we make cool clothes. So that's kind of the overall goal, is to get to that point. And we've started to really make a lot of different people's gear now. Like that's been a thing. We've become more of a manufacturer for other brands, not even just, I mean, we have our own stuff obviously, but that's been a huge part, and a business part of our business model that has really grown and been, worked out very well for us, that wasn't anticipated, because Epic Roll is branded on all of this. So every school that I get now, I'm at a point where if they know Epic Roll, they like the association. So it's like, for me, and as just growing a brand, Sure, I make your school's rash guards, and then guess what? Epic rolls on the shoulder. And I give you a great price on making them so you can sell them to your students, right? So everybody makes money. And for me, it's just brand recognition. And that just every week I get more and more schools and people, influencers, athletes that want to make their own gear. So we've really started to move into that, which has been really fun as well.
Do you sort of feel that pressure though of like what's the next stage and then the stage after that and the stage after that? Like how far out are you planning because you don't want to be just in one spot? You want to know what's coming next. Are you like, all right, we're going to do this in 1 year and then in 5 years this and then in 10 and then 50? Or are you basically taking the opportunities as they come and adjusting in that way?
Yeah, I don't think that you can map out, like if I look back at all the different, my businesses, my different career paths, and you can have an overall goal. Like I have this, this one umbrella goal that's like, this is what I want my life to look like, right? This is how I want to wake up every day. This is the time and freedom I want to have, the financial freedom I want to have. So I have those things, but I don't have an exact roadmap of how to get there. And so if I look at a situation like this partnership with Zoltan and Heather, I'm like, boy, I don't think I could have ever written that out and orchestrated, the steps that led me to there. I think it's a big part of getting up every day and just doing the work that's right in front of you. You do have to have some foresight and you do have to have some planning because again, what is our goal like to grow into? But I'm we're still a very small company. There's still a lot of room for growth. But one of the other advantages of the partners that I have is their involvement in other businesses and having the resources to sort of guide those decisions and help 10x the company and help grow strategically so that you don't oversaturate with employees or whatever it is, business expenses, and not be able to grow properly. So we have a responsibility to do that in the best way that we can so that we can have longevity in the brand. But it's certainly nothing that I try to trick myself into believing that I'll strategically have exactly the roadmap. You know what I mean? I just let the universe kind of guide and set up those serendipitous moments and relationships and open those certain doors because I feel very in tune with what I'm doing and very intentional with the work that we're doing. So I'm just kind of like in my mind, it's like, hey, hustle every day, just get up, keep working towards these things. And I've seen over the past 5 years where that's led. So for me, I'm just kind of sticking with that same philosophy until I'm told anything different.
Right. If it's working, stick with that philosophy, right? We're going to finish talking to Matt in just a minute, just a quick break. If you like this channel, if you enjoy watching and you want to help me grow, which I would truly appreciate, there is a very simple, very free thing that you can do to help. Here's some insider info for you about YouTube. If you click that share button down below and you copy the link from there, not from the URL in your browser, but you click the share button and copy that link. If you send that link to someone and they click that to watch the video, or you post it on Twitter or Instagram or Threads or wherever, when someone clicks that to watch the video, that is a huge boost to the algorithm and it will put me in front of more people on YouTube. The more people YouTube puts me in front of, the more people will hopefully watch, and the more people that watch, the more will hopefully subscribe, which I'm hoping you have all subscribed already. If not, now's a good time to push the button. It costs nothing to do, but it would mean a lot to me if you could just share this video and hopefully get your friends to watch. If you love watching me, then you can click that join button and join the member area for like $3 a month. That is as cheap as I could possibly set it. But either way, I appreciate you watching. Thanks so much, and let's get back to Matt. Now, what would you say to someone who maybe they're in the position where they have the idea or the thought or they want to make the leap into being an entrepreneur, but they don't have the resources or they don't have the funds to start or they don't know where to begin? What would you say to yourself 5, 6, 7 years ago in that position where you have this idea for this brand, you don't know how to make it work? This is what I'm going to do now. Go.
Yeah. So I think as an entrepreneur, if you're going to go down that path, you have to be very prepared to handle failure. Like people talk about that a lot, about the journey and about failure. And it's very true because it's just that I don't know any really successful people who didn't all experience some level of failure and just some issues of bankruptcy or this and that in the pursuit of their goal and their dreams. And the problem that I see most often is that people start to they don't believe that they're worthy of what they want. B, they don't even have pinpoint exactly what they want, and C, they're not disciplined enough to do the work over and over and over again, regardless of failure, to keep going. Like, I have everything that I've tried to achieve, every business. I have two patents on an invention, that on a fitness bottle that we're launching later this year, and that project has taken 14 years of my life pushing forward and starting with an idea, and then getting it patented and finding resources for attorneys and money and paying patent fees and trying to get engineers and tooling and all of these things that I had no idea. I had none of these resources, none of them. And the only thing that I did was I just had this belief that I was going to make this happen. Like, I don't know how, but I'm gonna make it happen. And so many times I could have quit. And so many times, people said, "Oh, that's cute. You invented something," or, "Oh, you have, whatever." It doesn't matter. It's like, when you're focused and when you have a deep rooted belief in what you're going to achieve, I just firmly believe that if you get up and take small steps, no matter how long it takes, you'll get there. The universe will open up those paths and those opportunities for sure, 100%. But we don't like to accept those truths. It sounds, woo woo and hocus pocus, and people are like, "Oh, and I got bills, and I do too. I get it. 100%. You know what I mean? That's why most people don't do it. And that's why people that try it are not successful, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all, And so you really have to be, I think, committed. And I think there's also, a fair amount of just like critical thinking and logic that has to be involved. Like, you can't have 6 kids, a mortgage, all these issues, and be like, "You know what? I'm moving to Nashville. I'm going to start singing career." You know what I mean? Like, there's probably a more subtle way to transition into things like that. But we are arguably in, the most opportunistic time of history. So we have all these crazy resources, like what you and I are doing right now, never possible in the past, right? Like, there are endless resources to teach people how to do what they've done. Like, guaranteed, whatever it is that you want to do, somebody's already done it, and somebody's already done it really well. And you can go and emulate them. You can read books, you can go to seminars, you can get mentors, all these different things. So until you've fully exhausted all of your resources and, ready to quit, then I would just encourage people to get hyper focused on what it is that their ultimate goal is and what they're really looking to achieve, and make sure that it's not just chasing dollars, right? Because that's a really easy thing to do, especially because finances are the majority of people's biggest issues, right? Everybody's got bills and everybody's stressing about money. And so it can be very hard to detach that reality and then entertain this idea that you're going to go off and accomplish all this stuff and live this life that you never thought you could and have all this money that you never thought you could. That's a tough sell, right? So if you don't believe that in your heart, you can say it, you could tell your friends, you could say it to yourself, but unless you really accept that and you really believe that in your heart, I don't think you'll ever do the work to actually get there, because you're going to be faced with tons of oppositions and obstacles along the way, and that's just part of it. But I look at what I'm trying to do is not only build these brands, but I want to inspire entrepreneurs to go out and do this same stuff. And I want to do it through my stories and my failures and all of these struggles that I went through, because I'm just some guy that's no one special, that was just sitting in this small town of Warrenton, Virginia, around nobody. And look at the opportunities now that I have in front of me. And I'm like, wow, this is powerful. This is inspiring for people, to hear. So a big part of it is feeling this, like, I feel this responsibility at this point to achieve a certain level of success, because without that, you're never going to be given the forum, to really express that to people and really inspire. Like, you have to reach a certain level if you're going to get people's attention and go, "Oh, I want to listen to what you have to say." So that process is always in the back of my mind, is really jotting down these stories and all these things that are happening to me, because I find them as, like just like I found inspiration in other people's struggles and journeys and reading books and hearing all of that. That's what kind of led me to believe, okay, this is possible. These people that are billionaires, they didn't even finish high school. They didn't go to college. They didn't do this. What did they do? They hustled. What did they do? They believed. You know what I mean? Like those were the fundamental ingredients that you needed for success. And so that's what I've applied. That's what I would recommend. People apply and just have that mindset as they approach this. It's not for everybody, that's for sure.
I feel like 99% of what you just said also applies to jiu-jitsu. And that makes me happy because in the intro that I recorded before I hopped on with you, I talked about how I feel like there's a lot of parallels between jiu-jitsu and business, just like there's parallels for jiu-jitsu and the rest of your life. And that mindset of like the just keep showing up mindset, the mindset of as a white belt, you're going to get beat up for like a year and you're going to lose and all of that's going to happen. Do you think being good at jiu-jitsu made you better at business and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some parallels there for sure. I think in that getting comfortable being uncomfortable notion, that I mean for sure, because you have to dedicate so much time to. I think that's why my getting my black belt meant so much to me, because it took so damn long, like it took so long, and everybody's journey is different. But I look back and I'm like, man, that all of that, brought me to this point and made me who I am. And it's the people that I've met, the experiences I've had, the connections. I mean, it's invaluable. You know what I mean? Like I sound like such a jujitsu fanboy, but it's really true.
I mean, this is what this show
Right?
is.
Like, so if we're ever gonna nerd out on jujitsu, exactly, if we're gonna nerd out, this is the forum to do it. Yeah, but for real, it really is. It's life. It's not even just business. It's like jujitsu, helps you deal with life. I think getting out, I'll speak just for guys because I'm sure there's some similarities with females, but for guys, I think there's added pressure and stress that we might feel as guys, whether it's leaders of our household or being financially responsible for people, or dealing with certain things in society. And so when you come to jiu-jitsu, you can just let it go. You know what I mean? You can let that aggression go. You can be around people, and you can really let that. I think that energy that people get out in jiu-jitsu transcends into their life a lot more than they think, because as well as I do that. Take jujitsu away from me for like 2 weeks, from a sickness or whatever, you're miserable. My wife is like,
It's
hey,
the worst.
go to jujitsu. Like you're being a dick. Like, you know what I mean? Go.
Right.
And I'm like, am I? Am I? It's like my PMSing, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh man, I haven't been there. Today was actually my first day back at Open Mat since before I got back from Vegas, because the day before I was about to leave, I did Open Mat, and like an idiot at 43 years old, I'm rolling for an hour and 45 minutes straight, just killing them, right? And that last roll, I like arched and moved, and I felt it in my back, and I was like, here we go.
It's always that last
Oh,
one. It's always
dude,
that
I'm
last
walking
roll.
out, like this, and I saw my
Yeah.
chiropractor once before I left, but the whole time, like we're at UFCX, and I'm like, with Robin, I'm like sitting down, like, oh my God, dude, I'm like trying to take medication, and so I had to take like literally almost 2 weeks off, and I was back in there today. I was like, oh my God, I just feel like normal again. You know what I mean? It's just so yeah. I definitely think there are parallels and lessons to be learned, and I think what stands out most to me is that notion of getting comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Losing a lot, getting smashed, not being able to breathe, suffocating, all these things. And then you're like, oh, so when that's happening in business or life, like I feel like in a weird sense, I've already been there, right? Like in a weird sense, I've already been in that really uncomfortable position. That dude sweating into my mouth and just like I've been there. So this doesn't seem so bad, right? It's context, it's perspective. It provides perspective that I think without that level of maybe combativeness or interaction with a human, you might otherwise not feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before I wrap it up and go back to work, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to get in or
Oh man, no, not really, man. Just I'm just really appreciate the opportunity to come on again and talk about the business, and for everybody who is out there who's interested, please go to Epic Roll and check us out. Follow us on Instagram and get some gear. I think you'll like it. And we have a money back guarantee. See what I mean? You're not even getting yourself into a tricky situation. Right?
Zero risk.
Zero risk. Zero risk. So
no, I mean, obviously I'm biased because I've been wearing like Epic Roll rash guards for like, I think we've been working together for like 3 years now. I just recorded a video, so that I recorded a video earlier that's either going to come out right before this one or right after this one, but I talked about like social media and brands always reaching out and whatever, and how like I will only ever tell people something's good if I actually use it. Like I won't be one of those people who's like, anyone gives me money, I'll say your brand's good. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've been wearing Epic Roll for like 3 years for a reason, because it's good. So nice. I can give my genuine endorsement that it's a good product.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And we'll have to do this like more often, because I feel like you have a lot of lessons for people who, not just as like a black belt and not just someone who's successful in business, but you've been around the block in a lot of things that we didn't even get to today. So maybe we'll have to do this like once every 6 months.
I would love it, brother.
And just tell some stories.
Let's do it.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you.
Big thanks to Matt Wahlstrom for coming on the show today and talking to me. I hope you enjoyed our conversations, and if you did, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check out epicrollbjj.com and check out all of the new stuff they have posted there. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.